Absolutely true. Now, when we come to potential expansion, the first place we look is not Syria and, of course, not Yemen, but we look first towards Lebanon and Hezbollah, which, as your report also accurately mentioned, is under total Iranian support and, if not, direct operational control. Now, for Hezbollah, it's not so simple. It's not just a simple matter of Hezbollah saying, oh, well, we'll take advantage of this opportunity while Israel is deploying troops and potentially on the ground in Gaza. Well, for Hezbollah, there are risks there. Hezbollah has its hands full within Lebanon itself. Lebanon is in a severe state of division, and Hezbollah is locked into tension and conflict with its counterparts within Lebanon itself. So it is not risk-free for Lebanon to simply mount an operation against Israel. And there may be disputes and differences between Iran and Hezbollah about whether or not it wants to engage with Israel. But at this point, again, Israel seems to be confident about its ability to
Israel
handle
seems confident that they can
fronts.
continue
Please.
for as long as this is what essentially you mentioned.
Professor, also, let's talk about the role of the international community as well, with the United States, China positioning military assets in the region. Do you feel that such a flex of muscle, it can act as any sort of a deterrent at this point?
I think that was entirely the intention. Immediately, President Biden has moved swiftly. You know, all of this talk about President Biden being too old and so forth, this has all disappeared. They've seen him be a vigorous hands-on commander-in-chief. The United States immediately moved two aircraft carriers into the waters nearby as a strong deterrent signal. President Biden himself, of course, made that dramatic visit to Israel. This was in the midst, of course, of the what appears to be, based on what U.S. intelligence, and also I should mention here, French intelligence, says was a bogus claim by Hamas that Israel struck the hospital in Gaza City on October 17th, causing, according to Hamas, hundreds of casualties. A terrible event for those Palestinian civilians there. But Hamas has not been able to provide any evidence, refuses to. It's been asked by media outlets in the United States and cannot. And meanwhile, the Wall Street Journal has put together a video showing that very likely that strike on that deadly strike on that missile that killed terribly some hundreds or more Palestinian civilians was due to a Palestinian Islamic Jihad rocket that misfired and struck the parking lot. So that's where that issue stands. Please,
Mr. Joseph, I just want to now, just take this a little further. We talk about Hamas, we talked about Hezbollah, we mentioned about the Houthi rebels. Now, they all have links to Iran. My question is, who is backing Iran that they are funding all these militias who are essentially targeting Israel as of now? But who is standing behind Iran? Or is it Iran, do they have the resources to carry out this multi-pronged war through its proxies?
It's a great question that you ask, because it takes us exactly to Iran's priorities. Iran's priorities are not its citizens. We've seen that. We've seen that graphically, where Iran's citizens rise up in protest against Iran, and they're killed by Iran. So Iran doesn't care about the welfare of its citizens. It continues to work on its nuclear weapons program. The Biden administration wanted to get back into the nuclear weapons deal, lift the sanctions, and Iran refused to accept the deal on that, to restore and return to the Iran nuclear deal. Instead, Iran wants to make and project this destabilization in the region. That is the primary focus. This is a regime that is determined to destabilize, to create havoc, to kill people. You know, you mentioned Syria. We should. It's very important for your viewers to put this conflict in Gaza in perspective. Gaza has about a little over 2 million citizens. In Syria, neighboring Syria, with Iranian support, get this, 6 times the population of Gaza have been displaced. 6 times, about 14 million Syrians have been displaced by the war there, launched by Bashar Assad with the full backing of Iran. The death toll in Syria, over 300,000. That's according to conservative UN estimates. Over 300,000. So this dwarfs what we've seen here in this 2 weeks. Of course, the scrutiny, international scrutiny on Israel, of course, far outmatches anything that was applied to Bashar Assad and Iran in Syria. Please.
Well, Mr. Edward P. Joseph, thank you so much for joining us on World DNA with your insights and your perspective on this.
You're welcome.
Now, it's been 16 days since the Israel-Hamas war started. Tensions are escalating on the battlefield.
There are fears of a multi-front war for Israel and threat of an on-ground invasion for Gaza. But now let's take you to the site where it all started on the morning of 7th October. Residents in southern Israel woke up to their worst nightmare.
Israel, it was under attack. One of the very first places to bear the onslaught of Hamas was Kibbutz Be'eri. Not sparing women, children and elderly, the militants, they went on a killing spree and they took dozens of hostages back to Gaza.
Killing hundreds at will, they left the place in ruins. And here is a report from our correspondent Vishal Pandey from Be'eri in Israel. Take a look at this.
More than 100 people were killed and many kidnapped from this Kibbutz Be'eri because this was the place where Hamas infiltrated first and they were killing everyone.
I came to report my mom. She was kidnapped by Hamas. I have a movie that someone sent me from a Telegram group, Gaza Now. She was kidnapped with her husband and two neighbors from Kibbutz Be'eri. And I guess they're in Hamas now, in Gaza. That's it.
Look at these bullet holes of the cars.
And I want to say something. It's not a war. It's not a battlefield. You see the babies, the mother, the fathers in their bedrooms, in their protection rooms, and how the terrorists kill them. It's not a war. It's not a battlefield. It's a massacre. It's a terror activity.
Hamas killed those people who were trying to escape through this car.
It's unbearable. I have so many funerals to be in, and you know, I can't even be in all the funerals. You can see everywhere is graves, and everyone is dead. Monsters.
Even small children were not spared by the Hamas.
Sa kanyang room, tinatok ko, Lola, sabi ko tara, pumunta na tayo ng bomb shelter. Bakit? Sabi ko may racket, okay. Pumasok po kami ng bomb shelter na dalawa. Yung
Now, the Israel-Hamas war enters day 16 and the whole world is rocked by protests and rallies.
Now, protests have erupted across the globe. They are being held against Palestinian militant group Hamas, demanding the release of hostages in London, Paris and Geneva, while thousands also gathered for pro-Palestinian stir in Germany, Denmark and Belgium.
Around 20,000 protesters gathered in London's Trafalgar Square and demanded the release of hostages. The agitation in London followed a pro-Palestinian rally, and that witnessed 1 lakh people. It had 100,000 people marching through the city.
Bring them home, bring them home, bring them home.
My message to Hamas is, this is about humans, this is about human life and bringing people home to their families. You have families, you have kids, you have mums, dads, grandmas. If you were in this position, you wouldn't want to be separated from them. No one wants to be separated from them. Everyone here gets to go home to be with their families tonight. You get to go home and be with your family and have dinner with your family, whereas 210 people don't. And that is what we're calling for today.
In Germany, 10,000 people expressed solidarity with Israel outside Berlin's Brandenburg Gate. At the same time, near the Brandenburg Gate, around 300 people gathered at central Potsdam Square, where German President Frank-Walter Steinmeier was addressing a solidarity rally, and urged attendees to stand against anti-Semitism. Later, police broke the unauthorized demonstration, leading to minor scuffles between cops and the protesters.
In Belgium's capital, Brussels, around 12,000 people took out a march outside European institutions and expressed their solidarity with Palestine, demanding an end to the ongoing humanitarian crisis in Gaza Strip.
It's important to all be here together to show resistance in a peaceful way, to demonstrate, to call for action, international action for a ceasefire especially, but also to end the genocide, and to all be here together to support each other in this difficult time. And yeah, support and solidarity, it's what it's about.
In Copenhagen, 2000s of pro-Palestinians marched near Danish parliament, chanted slogans in support of the Gaza victims. The protesters demanded Danish government to recognize Israel's actions as war crimes.
I don't know other ways to voice out my opinion. I voice it out over the internet to my friends, to my family communication. But here in Denmark, I thought being in a protest, it's the clearest way to say what we want and what we need.
Jeg håber at få de danske regeringer op til at åbne lidt øjnene for dem og give noget flere transport og flere mad til de civile. Og hjælpe de civile og anerkende, at der er en krigsforbrydelse, det de har gang i. Det er ikke nok med, at de kun hjælper os Ukraine. Det er ikke fair.
In Paris, 300 people gathered with placards and images demanding release of hostages held by militant group Hamas since the October 7th attacks. Now, in the United States, pro-Palestinian demonstrators hit the streets chanting, "Palestine will be free." These were the slogans at Boston's Copley Square. The protesters waved Palestinian flags and brandished placards expressing their support to the war-torn nation.
And with that, it's time now for a short break.
Don't go anywhere. Of course, we're tracking all the biggest developments. Iran is set to host a six-nation meeting with foreign ministers from Iran, Turkey, Russia in attendance, and Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov set to arrive later today. We will get you all the details after the break.
Also on the other side, a priceless ancient astronomical contraption over 1,000 years old is all set to go under the hammer at Sotheby's in London. Stay tuned for that on the other side as well.
Israel woke up to a barrage of thousands of rockets fired from the Gaza Strip.
אזרחי ישראל, אנחנו במלחמה.
Hostilities have broken out between Israel and Palestine, and the tensions that had been gathering steam over the course of the last several weeks and months.
The siren has gone off. I don't know if you can hear in the background what's going on. I'm going into the shelter now. So it's a very, very serious situation here across Israel. It's a state of emergency.
The United States stands with Israel.
Well, we are starting this broadcast with a developing story from West Asia, where Israeli Defense Minister Yoav Gallant says Hamas has launched a war against the state of Israel.
It's easy to tell you a flat story. It's easy to show you what's happening around the world. We do the difficult part.
This weapon has been banned, but the US, Ukraine and Russia do not find the bombs problematic.
We also tell you why what's happening.
A new drug is making a difference in the fight against Alzheimer's. This medicine helps slow down a patient's cognitive decline.
We look beyond the text. We give you context.
Is China preparing for a war in the Himalayas? And tonight, we come to you with some proof.
Hypocrisy is stunning.
Do leaders mean what they say? Do they ever say what they mean? To find out how real news affects you, your decisions,
Just when Iran took one step in the right direction, its moral police is planning to drag it further back. And once again, the victim will be women.
watch Gravitas.
Welcome and thanks for tuning in.
We don't impose our views.
Did India threaten to ban Twitter? Either that or Jack Dorsey is lying to you.
That is Gravitas. We let life breathe through our show. Gravitas, the informed show for an intelligent audience.
Hello, welcome to This World.
Welcome back to World DNA. Thank you so much for staying with us. We continue to bring you all the updates. A look at the headline first.
US President Joe Biden, along with the leaders of Britain, Germany, Italy, France and Canada, issue a joint statement welcoming the release of 2 hostages by Hamas, demand immediate release of all remaining hostages.
President Joe Biden speaks to Pope Francis on the Israel-Hamas conflict as Pope Francis calls for the need of de-escalation in the region.
Israeli aircraft strike 2 alleged Hezbollah cells along with multiple other targets across southern Lebanon in the early hours of Monday.
A second convoy, 14 aid trucks, crosses into Gaza through the Rafah crossing overnight on Monday. US President Joe Biden and Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu affirm continued flow of this critical assistance into the Strip.
Crowds of protesters take to the streets of Boston, Copenhagen, Berlin and many other cities across Europe and the United States in Palestinian solidarity. Pro-Israel supporters gather outside in headquarters in Geneva.
And amid the ongoing Israel-Hamas war, it's Iran that is now set to host a 6-nation meet with foreign ministers from Turkey, Russia in attendance.
Imagine Iran and Russia discussing the Israel-Hamas war. Now, Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov is set to arrive later today. This meeting comes after Iran's local media reports claim that Iranian Foreign Ministry wants to talk about regional issues without the interference of the West and non-regional countries. Iranian ministry has confirmed that this meeting will include talks on Armenia-Azerbaijan peace plan.
Now, Sergei Lavrov's visit to Tehran, it is significant. It comes as Moscow has been a negotiator between the two neighbors ever since Armenia launched its offensive in Nagorno-Karabakh region last month. And Lavrov's visit is also crucial as tensions escalate in West Asia, where Iran it's accused the United States of meddling with Israel's regional conflict.
Western countries have accused Tehran of supporting Moscow's offensive in Ukraine, claiming that Iran is providing munition to Russia. Argentina's ruling Peronist coalition smashed expectations to lead the country's general election, setting the stage for a polarized runoff vote between economy minister Sergio Massa and far-right libertarian radical Javier Milei.
Now, the result, it defied pre-election polls that had predicted a libertarian win. And the surprise strength of the Peronis, despite overseeing inflation hitting triple digits for the first time since 1991, that sets up an intriguing second round on the 19th of November between the two polar opposite economic models for the embattled country. Argentines had flocked to the polls on Sunday amid the country's worst economic crisis in 2 decades and rising anger with traditional elite. Many blame the Peronis, but Massa, a moderate, had shot back that the government's social safety nets and subsidies were key for many hard-up Argentines, including a recent stunt showing train and bus fares could rise sharply. Let's shift our focus now to all the stories from the world of technology. An ancient piece of technology that's more than 1,000 years old. It's all set to go under the hammer at Sotheby's in London.
Now, this is an astrolabe. Astrolabes were small devices that were used to track celestial movements and to determine the exact time of day of the year. Now, this particular one is believed to be over 1,000 years old. It will soon be auctioned off at Sotheby's.
The reason why this one is so special is just purely because of its age and location of origin. So this was made most likely in Baghdad around circa 900 AD, which puts it into sort of one of the earliest groups of Islamic astrolabes ever built. There are only around 20 of this type and date known at all, almost all of which are in global museums.
Even after all these years, the astrolabe remains intact. The extremely rare astrolabe is estimated to fetch somewhere around $1.8 to $3 million.
Well, the astrolabe, we've set the estimate of this astrolabe at £1.5 to £2.5 million, which puts it, in a higher bracket of pieces that are offered in the Islamic market, which can produce huge results. There have been some big prices paid for the best pieces over the last 10, 20 years, which has been a sort of healthy period for the Islamic and Indian market as a whole. I'd say for astrolabes, we really haven't had one this early to compare it to, so we're sort of treading new ground.
Now, astrolabes like this are rare and not often seen in the market. Its current owner acquired it in 1982. The astrolabe is the star lot in Sotheby's Arts of the Islamic World and India sale. The Arts of the Islamic World and India auction is scheduled for October 25th, while the 20th century Middle East auction will take place on the 24th of October. Now, when we think of a guide dog, we always think of our four-legged furry friends, and definitely, what if we tell you that robots can guide dogs as well now?
I mean, considering the pace at which things have been progressing, it doesn't come as a surprise at all. And man's best friend is now inspiring robot manufacturers, of course. Take a look at this. It's a quadruped robot. In other words, you can even call it a dog-shaped robot. Kai Qingshui is a visually impaired torchbearer and was guided by this robot dog at the torch relay for the 4th Asian Para Games taking place in China. The Asian Para Games, it's a multi-sport event for athletes with physical disabilities. And Kai, being led by the robotic guide dog, looked nothing less than a scene from a sci-fi movie.
跟我在使用真正的导盲犬，其实在行走方式上其实是一样的，让我很放松，所以还是蛮惊喜的。
Developed by Unitary Robotics, a Hangzhou-based tech company, the robot dog can adapt itself to various terrains. Equipped with advanced radar and visual technology, the robot dog can detect obstacles and navigate accordingly. And the company claims that during the upgrade and development of the robot dog, the needs of disabled people were taken into full consideration.
更加直观地感受到机器狗的一个行进的一个方向。第二个改变呢，就是我们对于机器狗的速度的一个改变。我们把它的这个原本的从2米每秒的一个速度优化到了4米每秒，帮助我们这个视障人士可以更便捷地出行。
Clearly, robots are evolving and becoming more autonomous and flexible than ever before. Now on to news from the world of business. Now Shivan, we've been tracking India's growth story, and now in a clear sign of India's economic resurgence, two of the country's top private banks, ICICI Bank and Kotak Mahindra Bank, have reported remarkable increase in their net profits for the July to September quarter.
Now, ICICI Bank, the nation's second largest private lender, defied expectations with an impressive 35.8% rise in its standalone net profit, reaching a record 102.61 billion rupees, or approximately $1.23 billion for the second quarter. This substantial growth was driven by the burgeoning consumer loan market, which has been significantly contributing to the bank's performance.
Kotak Mahindra Bank, standing as the fourth largest Indian bank by market capitalization, it reported a 24% increase in its standalone net profit, and this was notably supported by a 21% rise in loans for the second quarter. The consistently strong growth in Indian banks can be attributed to surging demand for credit, spurred by increased consumer spending. While the impressive profit margins from unsecured loans have been notable, there's a watchful eye on the potential risks that they entail as well. Delinquencies in the unsecured lending portfolio have been on the rise as well.
But they have not reached a concerning level, according to banking executives, though. But with the festive season on the horizon, consumer spending is expected to rise and potentially further bolstering the demand for retail loans and sustaining the profitability of these private banks. Huawei may now be poised to expand significantly in its $7 billion home market.
As export restrictions for the Nvidia is supposedly going to retreat, Chinese firms including Huawei are racing to fill the gap here. And historically, Nvidia has been the dominant provider of AI chips in China.
Holding a market share exceeding 90%, this shift in market dynamics presents a significant opportunity for Huawei to expand in its home market. Nvidia's ecosystem has led to the creation of a global network capable of training highly sophisticated AI models. In contrast, Huawei's version is more limited in terms of the AI models it can train. Replicating Nvidia's ecosystem, including supporting clients in transitioning to Huawei's platform, will be crucial for Huawei's success.
Intellectual property rights also pose a significant obstacle. Many US firms currently hold essential patents for GPUs to bridge this gap and create AI chips that can compete with Nvidia. Experts estimate that it may take Huawei up to a decade.
Huawei's ascent in the AI chip market is not only a business development but also a geopolitical one. If successful, it could represent a significant victory for Huawei against the United States, which has imposed export controls on the company since 2019. In recent years, Huawei has shown resilience, unveiling advanced smartphone chips and claiming breakthroughs in chip design tools as part of its effort to become a key provider of computing power for AI.
On to sports now. India have finally broken the New Zealand jinx after 20 years at the ODI World Cup.
The men in blue defeated the Kiwis by 4 wickets in a top-of-the-table clash. Virat Kohli led the chase as the hosts registered their 5th straight win and remain the only unbeaten team in the tournament now.
Indian skipper Rohit Sharma won the toss, elected to field first. Surya Kumar Yadav and Mohammad Shami came in for the injured Hardik Pandya and Shardul Thakur. Mohammad Siraj drew the first blood by dismissing Devon Conway for a duck. Shami removed Will Young, and New Zealand was struggling at 34 for 2 after the first 10 overs. Ravindra Jadeja dropped a regulation catch of Rachin Ravindra in the 11th over, and that proved costly for India. The Southpaw shared a 159-run stand with Daryl Mitchell before being dismissed for 75 in the 34th over. Mitchell completed his century in the 41st over, but the Kiwis did not finish well.
They only scored 54 runs in the last 10 overs and were bowled out for 273, with Shami picking a 5-wicket haul. Now, the in-form Sharma started off aggressively and his partner Shubman Gill got into the act as well, with India at 63 for no loss after 10 overs. Lockie Ferguson dismissed both the openers then, and Virat Kohli then dropped the anchor as as batters played around him. Shreyas Iyer got a start but could not convert it, and so did KL Rahul. Kohli kept going still and completed his 69th ODI 50 in the 34th over, with India at 186 for 4. Suryakumar Yadav's first outing was cut short due to a mix-up with Kohli, and Ravindra Jadeja walked in and played the perfect second fiddle to Kohli, who was eyeing a record equaling 49th ton. The chase master fell 5 runs short of the milestone, but Jadeja took India home with an unbeaten 39 in the 48th over. This was the host's 5th straight successful chase. Now, Pakistan's World Cup campaign is in need of a lift-off, to say the least, and the 1992 champions will be hoping it comes against neighbours Afghanistan.
Now, the plucky Afghans have never beaten Pakistan in 50-over cricket, but will be sensing an upset here. 1996 World Cup winning coach and WION's in-house cricket expert, Dav Watmore, tells you why this is a must-win game for Pakistan.
Pakistan need to win this. There's no two ways about it. They've lost 2 in a row. They have to win this. If they lose this, they're all but out.
Yeah, and the confidence is dropping, but I think this is a game that most people would think that they would win, and they can win. So yes, you're right. They just have to win it to stay alive.
Let's tell you why Pakistan have to win this. Let's bring up Pakistan at this World Cup so far. Remember, they started off with a scratchy win over the Netherlands, and then they beat Sri Lanka, chased down a big score. But since then, it's gone all downhill. They got hammered by India, and if they got hammered by India, what would you call their loss to Australia? Because they pulled it back towards the end, but when Mitchell Marsh and Warner were going, they looked pedestrian.
Well, that's right, and they did okay because Afridi came into a little bit more of a form, and he got his 5 wickets. So from that point of view, it was good that they showed a bit of fight and they brought it back a bit, but not good enough with the bat. They've been disappointing, particularly captain. He's a good player, as we know. He got a lot of runs as a captain, but in this series he's struggled.
All right, after sports, it's time now for entertainment. Alison Grange gets you all the details.
Hello, I'm Alison LaGrange coming to you from Durban, South Africa. First up, let's get you a look at the top stories from the world of entertainment.
It seems J.K. Rowling would rather do time in Azkaban than refer to transgender women as women. The Harry Potter author has again voiced her controversial opinions on the transgender community and the use of pronouns. This time she posted a picture on social media that featured the text, "Repeat after us, trans women are women." In response, she wrote, "No." In the comment section, she added, and I'm quoting, "I'll happily do 2 years if the alternative is compelled speech and forced denial of the reality and importance of sex. Bring on the court case. I'll say it. It'll be more fun than I've ever had on a red carpet."
Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce plan to take their rumored romance overseas as the singer embarks on the international leg of her Eras tour. The NFL star is set to visit the singer after she heads back to the road again in November. A source told the media, and I'm quoting here, Taylor starts her international tour in November and Travis is planning to be there to spend time with her. Travis and Taylor are very serious about their careers, and the two bond over that and want to show support for each other whenever they can.
Indian star Vijay's action thriller Leo is earning. It's shattered several box office records. The movie, which released last week, has already earned approximately 24 million globally, with the biggest opening of the year worldwide for any Indian movie. The film has become the 7th highest grossing film of all time.
And you have a clean shot.
An exhibition in London is celebrating the rock and roll legend Elvis Presley. Various personal possessions of the music star are on display. More details in our next report.
The glittery jackets, the gold-framed spectacles, gold-plated international belt. These are some of the personal items of Elvis Presley which are on display in London's Direct from Graceland Elvis exhibit.
Elvis's popularity is as great now as it was in the 50s when he first was discovered, and the UK has always been a huge fan base for Elvis, and even though he was never had the opportunity to come perform here, at least we can kind of fulfill that dream of his to perform in the UK and bring the exhibit back to London.
The Direct from Graceland Elvis exhibit features more than 400 items from the archive of the late superstar's Memphis mansion, showcasing his rise to fame, iconic moments of his career, home life, and his enduring cultural influence. So if you are a fan of Presley who hasn't had the chance to visit Memphis, this exhibition, which has opened at Arches London Bridge, might just be your favorite place this week. Bureau Report, WION, World is One.
And that's all from me for today. For now, it's back to our New Delhi studio.
Now, Antwerp Port City in Belgium hosted a unique race called Pumpkin Regatta.
The annual event involves kayaking competition in large hollow-out pumpkins. With every passing year, the event is held on a bigger scale, and this year the race involved pumpkins of more than 1,000 kilos. Take a look at these visuals. Well, I wouldn't mind trying that race myself.
I almost couldn't believe that that was an actual pumpkin, but you're right, that sounds fun. Now with that, we call a wrap on this edition of World DNA.
Thank you so much for tuning in. Keep watching WION World is One. News and updates continue on the other side.
Israel woke up to a barrage of thousands of rockets fired from the Gaza Strip.
אזרחי ישראל, אנחנו במלחמה.
Hostilities have broken out between Israel and Palestine, and the tensions that had been gathering steam over the course of the last several weeks and months.
The siren has gone off. I don't know if you can hear in the background what's going on. I'm going into the shelter now. So it's a very, very serious situation here across Israel. It's a state of emergency.
The United States stands with Israel.
Well, we are starting this broadcast with a developing story from West Asia, where Israeli Defense Minister Yoav Gallant says Hamas has launched a war against the state of Israel.
It's easy to tell you a flat story. It's easy to show you what's happening around the world. We do the difficult part.
This weapon has been banned, but the US, Ukraine and Russia do not find the bombs problematic.
We also tell you why what's happening.
A new drug is making a difference in the fight against Alzheimer's. This medicine helps slow down a patient's cognitive decline.
We look beyond the text. We give you context.
Is China preparing for a war in the Himalayas? And tonight, we come to you with some proof.
Hypocrisy is stunning.
Do leaders mean what they say? Do they ever say what they mean? To find out how real news affects you, your decisions,
Just when Iran took one step in the right direction, its moral police is planning to drag it further back. And once again, the victim will be women.
watch Gravitas.
Welcome and thanks for tuning in.
We don't impose our views.
Did India threaten to ban Twitter? Either that or Jack Dorsey is lying to you.
That is Gravitas. We let life breathe through our show. Gravitas, the informed show for an intelligent audience.
Hello, welcome to This World. Vladimir Amelyan joins us from Kiev, and he is currently on the front line fighting Russian troops.
We believe that world should be ruled by democracies.
I was interviewing you on television a couple of weeks back.
That's right.
And you said, if you really want to understand Jerusalem, why don't you come here and see it?
And you came.
Here I am.
Mass shooting after mass shooting after mass shooting. Why this cannot be fixed?
There are 425 million guns in the United States, which is more than the population.
The problem here is Trump has been able to make the argument that this is a political prosecution and that he's being singled out unfairly.
Defend our nation. You are saying we could have a cure for cancer.
We'll have treatments for many cancers in this decade, and they're going to come from India.
Downside is that it could potentially wipe us out. But let's start with the upside first.
The upsides are absolutely enormous. The potential uses of this are almost unlimited.
I only discovered AutoGPTs about a week ago and started writing about them. And after I started writing about them, Jeff Bezos followed me on Twitter, and all kinds of crazy amounts of people have been contacting us.
The show where we get you the week's biggest stories from around this world. What is the India story? It's the story of the world's biggest democracy.
We are developing the road infrastructure. In the end of 24, it will be equivalent to the road infrastructure of USA.
We have now entered the growth phase. And I believe that the growth rate in India is going to be exponential.
Two narratives of Indian story which need to be brought center stage.
Every week, the India story will bring the most incisive analysis, the most authoritative voices.
India will be a significant pole in the universe of AI going forward.
India is walking tall, India's stature is different, India's voice is being heard.
And the biggest newsmakers.
This is just a start. Tokyo, we won one bronze. Paris, we won a rocket. Good to see that, women cricket is getting more excited and everybody is looking up to that.
And these stories need to be told, and they are guided by the compass of their conscience.
From India for the world, the India story, the show for the global citizen.